Welcome everyone to the first content video of this training series. We're going to talk about how to lower your A1c and build that knowledge bank so you can fully understand diabetes. And we're going to do this by narrowing in on two things: picking through the misinformation and the overwhelm that's flooding your brain, and how to start with a good knowledge foundation and nutrition knowledge foundation. In this section, I'll tell you all about the ins and outs of carbohydrates and other nutrients that play a role in your blood sugar control and overall health. We're going to chat right here for a few minutes, and then I'm actually going to take you to my kitchen where I'll use real examples of foods and explain how they either raise or stabilize your blood sugar. So let's dig in. First of all, you can't start if you don't know where to start. But navigating nutrition and diabetes can be overwhelming because there's a ton of contradicting info out there. You might be told that the only way is keto or the only way is plant-based, but what works for your neighbor or your Facebook friend does not necessarily work for you. Everyone is different, which is why this misinformation can actually be dangerous. There's a very common misconception out there that a diabetes diet has to look a certain way, from low carb all the way up to the whole food, but everyone thrives on something a little different, so you need to find what works best for your body. And it needs to work for the rest of your life, because we aren't looking for a short-term solution that you can stick to for a few months or a few years even. We need long-term changes. So why is this misinformation out there anyways? Well, contradicting information can get put out there for a few reasons. One, people try to make money on skinny teas or detoxes. Those keywords and many others are not for your health. Rather, they are for sales. People who maybe aren't credentialed or misled tell opinion rather than fact a lot of times. So don't use Dr. Google. Some of the diet trends out there might sound logical initially, but actually are not telling you the whole story or the whole picture. Like anything else in life, it is never as black and white as it sounds. That's one thing that leads to those short-term solutions. In fact, research shows that over 90% of people who jump on diet trends see temporary benefits and then go back to where they were in the first place, which is a waste of time. So if there is one piece of advice I have for you, it is to start with the big picture and create a good foundation of nutrition knowledge that you can't get anywhere without. By trying different things and thinking about the tiny details, you're missing out on the main points of a healthy eating pattern for life. And I get it. Nutrition and diabetes is overwhelming or confusing, so it's easy to get narrow-sighted. But I'll show you now how to not let this happen so that you can experience overall good health for the rest of your life. Okay. So when you learn any new task, you have to start with knowing the basics. Think about learning a new instrument. You can't learn a new instrument without learning the background, right? You can't just play a song and memorize it because you aren't learning the background. You have to know techniques and skills and building blocks of playing this instrument. And if you know this, eventually you can play almost any song that comes your way. Now, if you memorize a song, you'll come back in a year definitely not knowing how in the world to play it. In this same way, you can't just eat healthy and live a healthy life by memorizing a food list. If you don't truly learn how foods and nutrients affect your body and your blood sugar, and how to use foods to stabilize blood sugars and stay overall healthy, you'll come back to me in a year and say, "Oh, Megan, I need your help. I tried all of this stuff and I lost some weight and got my blood sugars down, but then they came right back up and now I'm stuck." But if you know the science and the skills of nutrition and diabetes, you'll be able to navigate almost any situation life throws at you, because life doesn't abide by the food list. And you need to know how to work good nutrition into your life. If you want to lower your A1c and reverse type 2 diabetes, you need to skip the idea of any short-term restrictive diets and do it right from the beginning, or I promise you, you will see cycles in your health, which is not good for your body in the long term. So now let's dive into how different foods interact with your blood sugar. Remember that a balanced diet is important no matter what. An all-around, well-rounded diet is going to keep you healthy in the long term. So when we're talking about diabetes reversal, or that prospect of what we think of as reversing diabetes, we're talking improving our pancreas function, our liver function, and keeping our body overall as a whole healthy. This requires a full balanced eating pattern. So any of the diet trends out there that are telling you to cut out key nutrients are simply missing the mark, and I'm going to prove to you why. So we get a lot of nutrients from things like fruits. Fruits are a healthy food. I know that sometimes it's difficult to think that way because we think, oh, there's sugar in there, it's not good for diabetes, sugar is not good for diabetes. Well, again, it's not that black and white. So I'm going to dig in a little bit into different types of carbohydrates, how they affect our blood sugar, and how we can balance out with other foods to make sure that we use them to stabilize rather than see those spikes and those drops. So again, if we are missing out on key micronutrients, for example, we're going to miss out on a lot of B vitamins if we cut out all of our fruits. We're going to miss out on some other things, and that's not going to help with improving pancreas and liver function or really digging in and improving insulin resistance. So overall healthy diet, again, stick to it. Let's get into this carbohydrate conversation. Carbohydrates are the only nutrient that directly raises our blood sugar. So it might sound logical to not eat any, right? Well, wrong. Not all carbs are created equal. So there are really good, nutritious, quality carbohydrate foods, such as fruits or legumes and beans. I have black beans here. Whole grains, even milk, that kind of thing. What I mean there is there's a lot of other nutrients that come in with that food that are essential. We need them. So those are good quality, nutritious carbohydrate foods. Not so nutritious carbohydrate foods are low quality things like the white flour products and sweets, what you would typically think of as a not so great source of nutrition, and those simply need to be limited. And again, to clarify what I mean by a nutritious versus a non-nutritious food, a non-nutritious food does not have a bunch of other nutrients connected to it, so it's just a carby food that's going to raise your blood sugar but not really provide you any nourishment. So here are some examples of foods that you can put on your plate that are really going to help you in the long run, and foods that you put on your plate that can help you stabilize your blood sugar even in the short term and have other health benefits. So the first nutrient that I want to talk about is fiber. We get fiber from whole grains, non-starchy veggies, beans and legumes, and fruits. So fiber does a ton of things in your body. It promotes gut health. It keeps your blood sugar stable rather than going up into that danger zone. It's going to raise a little bit with the carbohydrate, but not so much that it's going to cause you any harm. It promotes gut health, good metabolism, long-term blood sugar stability, and so much more, so much more. So the other one that I want to mention before I start showing you foods, the other nutrient, is protein. So the big thing with protein is that protein foods most often do not contain carbohydrate. Things like cottage cheese, different cheeses, protein foods that are plant protein foods will contain carbohydrate because it's how they're found in nature. So protein really slows our digestion and keeps us full, and it prevents you from going up high because that slow digestion creates a more stable stream of glucose coming into the blood versus all at once. So here's an example of this. I have this nutrition label for potato bread. This is white bread, and you can, if you can see the nutrition label, there's less than 1 gram of fiber here. So it's a lot of carbohydrate, it's a lot of starch, but it's not much for other nutrition that's going to keep you full, going to keep you nourished, and going to keep you with a stable blood sugar. Something that does, though, is something like this. And there are many, many kinds of better whole grain bread, but I really like this kind. It's sliced smaller, so there's actually only 9 grams of carbohydrate, and we'll get into this a lot next time, but about 10 grams of carbohydrate, almost all of you, I guarantee almost all of you in this audience can handle 10 grams of carbohydrate. You are not allowed to eat toast in the morning if you really, really want toast. Here's another example of a really high fiber, again, many brands of this, but a really high fiber, even low calorie and low carbohydrate. So one of these tortillas has 11 grams of fiber. That's amazing. So if we're talking net carbohydrates, which we'll again get into next time, it has 6 net grams of carbohydrates. I don't use them often, but they're a great source of whole grain and fiber. Okay, non-starchy vegetables are another really good source of our fiber. So we've got celery, cool, any non-starchy veggie you can think of. Carrots, now I'm sure some of you have heard, oh, but carrots have sugar. If you are counting the carbohydrates in your carrots, you are micromanaging. Other sources are like our fruits. These are amazing. These little clementines, there's like 8 grams of carbohydrate. 2 is actually the serving size if you're interested in that. Now let's get into our protein foods. I already showed you the cottage cheese. Something like yogurts. Yogurts have a very different range of carbohydrates, so they get a bad rap because people think, oh, there's so much sugar in yogurt. There are so many grams of added sugar in a lot of yogurts. There are also some yogurts like 000, this one, that don't have much for added sugar at all, and they actually have so much protein that it's not really going to bug you at all, because remember, protein helps to stabilize blood sugars. So we can't get into everything today, but what I shared with you is just a little bit of nutrition knowledge on different types of foods and how they affect our blood sugar. This long-term balanced diet is what is going to give you those really good health outcomes, meaning you're going to stay healthy for the rest of your life and you're going to control your blood sugars. So again, controlling diabetes with lifestyle, aka eating and exercise, is not as scary as it sounds. The knowledge you need to gain can be, it can't be covered in one day, but it can be learned, and you can lower your A1c, your weight, and drop diabetes. So I only touched the tip of the iceberg today about nutrition and diabetes. If you need more guidance in this and want to know how you can take a deeper dive into all things nutrition and diabetes, check out the link below to schedule a call with me. And during that call, I'll get to know you, where you're at, and lay out a roadmap for you on how to actually implement this and get to your health goals. And I'll tell you how I can help you get there. In the next video, I'll be recapping some of what I did today, and we will, I'll show you even more, and I'll show you how to implement this. So I'm going to show you how to build a plate, how to eat well and build a plan so that you can actually lower your A1c using food as a blood sugar stabilizer, and reframe that for you. Because it's easy to know what to do, but actually putting it into practice in a way that works for you is where the real magic happens. So keep an eye out for that next video. I'll see you soon.